Good day, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, based on where you are in the world. It's good to be here again, and we've been having a tremendous time. We've been learning so much, and at this time, we want to go into our session on botanical medicine. Let's bow our heads, close our eyes as we pray. We are so thankful, merciful, gracious God, for this opportunity to come again to learn of you. Your love has no limit, your grace has no measure, and the earth is replete with lessons that we can learn and things that we can do so that we can glorify you in our body and in our spirits. So we commit this session into your care. Open our minds and may we grow in grace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. And so we want to talk about botanical medicine today. It's an area that is becoming more prominent. Just in my country alone, I live in Trinidad and Tobago. We have over 500 medicinal plants that have been recognized. And in many countries, there are many other plants that you would know that we don't even have in our area. And we'll look at how some of these things work in our session today. So if we look at the area of botanical medicine, plant medicine, we're talking about botanicals, and some of you may have done botany at school, having to do with plants, a substance obtained from plants and used typically in medicinal or cosmetic products. So this is not something new. From time immemorial, plants have been used. As a matter of fact, the pharmaceutical industry really took off in the 19th century. Now, the word medicine comes from the Latin word medicina, which is any substance that affects the mind or the body, not just the mind or the body, administered for its therapeutic or as a preventative agent. So the use of medicine is not a recent thing. Historically, if you go back to ancient civilizations, you will see there was always a medicine man, a medicine person, someone who understood how to combine the plants and administer the healing virtue. Remember, it's not only the body that these things affect, but the mind as well. There are some very powerful plants that can affect our thoughts, and some are even toxic. Now, when we're talking about plants, there are what we call 4 degrees of action. You have food, plants that are used as food. Then you have medicinal food. So your plants that are used as food will be things like your cabbage, your carrots, your broccoli, your lettuce, your pak choy, and those things. Plants that is used as medicines will be things like your onions and your garlic and your thyme and so on. You don't eat a large quantity of those. And then you have medicinal plants that you use like your chamomile and your catnip. Those are what we call 3rd degree. And then you have another degree called the 4th degree now, is your toxic botanicals. You have to use them under the supervision of someone who understands how they work, or you can harm yourself. One will be things like your pork root. These are highly toxic. You want to avoid those kinds of things because you can harm yourself, you can even die. Now, these substances obtained from plants, and they affect the mind and the body, and of course, they are administered for their therapeutic and preventative use. Now, the thing is, in terms of toxicity and so on, Christ did not do that. He's not the author of death. He never planted the seed of death in the system. It is Satan that planted these seeds when he tempted Adam and Eve to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. What that meant is that when Adam and Eve decided to follow another God, then the natural results, not only in humanity, but in the very environment, changed. Now, no noxious plant was placed in the Lord's great garden. But after Adam and Eve sinned, poisonous herbs sprang up. Now, there is some explanation for some of them. So for example, because the environment changed, there are aspects of the plant that now will become prominent. So for example, to protect themselves against predators, some plants produce excess of certain kinds of chemicals that is supposed to prevent overgrazing and destruction. So for example, let us say you look at the tea plant that produces a lot of tannins and so on. These tannins, what they do is that they precipitate out protein. So when the plant starts to, an animal starts to eat them, they are astringent to the animal. They pull the moisture out of the animal so the animal would not overfeed. In a perfect world, those things would not happen. Yeah. So a plant could be good, could have been good in the Garden of Eden, but when the environment changed, that very plant starts to produce things now that are harmful, especially if used in excess. So what was the question in the parable of the sower? Did not thou sow good seeds in the field? Then of course, where did the tears come from? And the answer comes that an enemy had done this. It is the enemy that plants those things. When he tempted man to sin, not only man was changed, but the environment was changed as well. And there is something called adaptation. It's not evolution, adaptation in the plant and in the animal world. So for example, there are some fish, freshwater fish, that they don't have a loop of Henle. That's as part of the kidney. That does an important function because then while it is present, it's not functional. So there are aspects in nature that either the function becomes rudimentary or it doesn't function at all, or there's an overproduction because of changes in the environment due to the introduction of sin. So every noxious herb is of his sowing, and by his ingenious method of amalgamation. Amalgamation, we call that in time past hybridization. Now they call it genetic modification. So the enemy knows how to do that. A lot of the things that we use today, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the things we use today have undergone amalgamation, but we have used them for so long, we do not really know. Amalgamation is when you combine different kinds of life form and you come up with something that sometimes it may be harmful. Yep. So the action of process or of combining or uniting, as we said, is amalgamation. So if you read the book Counsels to the Church, page 101, you will see some of the things that the enemy has deployed in amalgamation, things like wheat and grapes, you know, and other foods. He has used that process of amalgamation. You see, our Savior is the restorer of the moral image of God in man. He's the restorer. He has supplied in the natural world remedies for the ills of man, that his followers may have life and that they might have it more abundantly. And that's so true. Everything that we need is already provided. God doesn't wait until we have a need. He goes in advance. The problem is the enemy has successfully, through our education and orientation, removed the knowledge that God has already presented for the preservation of health. As a matter of fact, he took his people into a wilderness where there was nothing. The first thing the first need they really had was for water. When the water supply was finished, he took them to a bitter pool, the pool of Mara. The bitterness in the pool was for them to have detox of their liver. Detox in the body parallels removal of sin. When you are detoxed, you are able to have better health, to see clearly, to be able to perceive and to understand, to comprehend. But they didn't want to drink the bitter water, so they remained in sin. God sent them the manna, the food that the angels provided, and what do you think happened? They refused. They didn't want it. They wanted the meat and so on. So a simple diet that God provides will be sufficient to maintain health. But when we have refined taste, the leeks and the onions and the cucumbers and all these things, that Egyptian culture, Egyptian thought, Egyptian philosophy, then we are going to get sick because the body was not designed to deal with all of that. So we can safely discard the concoctions that man has used in the past. We can, but it's just that we need knowledge to do that. So how much of the world use herbal medicine for primary care? A whole lot. A lot of people do it. So up to 80% of the world's population, nearly 3 out of 4 patients who use alternative care will never tell their doctor about it. And that's true because of fear. So one of the things that the system does is puts fear in you. The doctor is the boss. He is like God. And he will tell you, you know, if you're using these things, he wants to deprive you of basic health care. And so it's a problem. Now, why do people use botanical medicine? Of course, now many have lost faith in mainstream medicines. Why? There's a lot of failure. People are not getting better. That's the truth. You have to maintain this thing. It's very costly. You have to always be doing testing. You have to always go and do your checkups, and you don't get better. You still have the aches and pains. You may get good numbers. And by the way, those numbers, we call your blood pressure, your blood sugar, your cholesterol, your creatinine, your panels, and so on. Those ranges are what we call the windows of life. The window is what makes life possible. Through the window comes the healing virtue of the air. And so those windows, those parameters say that life is possible. If you're outside the window, then we have a problem. So people have lost faith. And of course, medicine is just expensive. You have to spend a whole lot, as opposed to going in the backyard or by your neighbor's backyard or by your relative's backyard or a member's backyard, and you can get so much. So many believe that anything natural is safer and better than the treatments produced by the lab or high technology. And truth be told, in a lot of instances, they are. But we have to now understand how to utilize plant medicine. One of the things people don't spend time is understanding physiology. And then we have things like energetics and dosage and duration and how to combine. So these programs give some basic understanding as to how some of those things work. The herbal industry has developed a high profile in many developed countries, and that's true. Especially in some European countries, it is actually incorporated in the mainstream healthcare system. And the truth is that God is exalted because there are many ways to perform the healing art, but only one way that God approves, which is the one that he recommends. Now, the Lord has provided antidotes for disease in simple plants, and these can be used by faith. By faith, remember, faith is understanding. It's not just to say, well, God said do this, so I'm going to do it. We have to understand how the thing works. So we may say, okay, this particular plant may be helpful in this, but how much do you use? For how long do you use it? Is it even good for you? Because not everything will work with everybody. For example, one of the most powerful vasodilators that we utilize is cayenne pepper. But not everybody can use cayenne pepper. If you are allergic to nightshade, which cayenne pepper is one, then cayenne pepper is not best for you. The next thing is, if you have what we call your energetics is dry, you have a dry, naturally dry body type, then using cayenne pepper, which induces moisture loss through sweating, is going to dry you out more. So the cayenne may not be the best thing for you. Another pungent herb, maybe ginger, may be better for you, or mint, something of the mint family. So that's how we apply those things. We do not manifest a lack of faith when we ask God to bless his remedies. It's his remedies. So now we show more understanding. True faith will thank God for the knowledge of how to use these precious blessings in a way that will restore mental and physical vigor. He can use water. Imagine that. Water is a very powerful remedy. And sunshine and the herbs which he has caused to grow in healing maladies brought on by indiscretion or accident. So you see why maladies are brought on? Indiscretion or accident. Actually, most people die either through ignorance or accident. It is ignorance, whether it is willing ignorance or ignorant ignorance. We die and we get sick through these indiscretions. Some people choose not to get the knowledge, and some people have the knowledge, but they have no power. That's why we need grace. Grace is important to apply remedies because the world is filled with fear. Wherever fear is, grace has a hard time to work. Let me say that again. Wherever there is fear, then the operation of grace is more difficult. And that's what the enemy wants to do. He knows that we are saved by grace through faith. Now, faith and grace work together. Grace is power from God, and faith is understanding based on the evidence that God has given. Now, when we are sick, faith becomes difficult because understanding goes out the door when we are irritable, irritated, and anxious, or in pain. And then now it makes it difficult for the Holy Spirit to bring to our memory the very truths that are needed through the promises of God. True faith will thank God for the knowledge of how to use these precious blessings. That's what it will do. So the Lord has given us simple herbs of the field that at times are beneficial, and that's so true. You know, one of the plants that I love so much is the plantain, not the fig, the shrub, Alisma plantago major. It's a powerful plant, one of the plants that everyone should have. It's so potent as an anti-inflammatory. And I think I gave this experience, maybe you may have heard it. So I'm not afraid if a wasp sting me, because once I have plantain, then I'm fine. Even though the sting is horrible, I just chew a piece of the leaf and put it there. And in less than 10 minutes, the swelling, there's no swelling and there is no pain. And I don't have to go to the hospital and so on. So understanding how these things work, what happens? When you understand, now you can have faith. And where there is faith, then fear goes, you know, fear goes, right? So now, and if every family, how much every family were educated in how to use these herbs in cases of sickness, much suffering might be prevented and no doctor need be called, except you have a gunshot or you have a laceration or you have some blunt force trauma accidentally. Those things now, plants may not be the best based on the severity, but they can be used in minor situations. For example, I was cleaning my chain link my chain link fence wire one day, and I'm using a cutlass to cut off those love vines, you know. And when I was almost finished, I lacerated 3 of my fingers, the ring finger, the middle finger, and the pointing finger, 3 of them. But it wasn't but it was bleeding because, of course, with the heat and the exertion. What did I do? I went inside and I packed some cayenne pepper in there. What does cayenne pepper do? It's an anticoagulant. It helps the blood to coagulate. So as I packed the cayenne pepper in there, as the blood came up, it coagulated much more quickly and formed a nice seal. And then it healed without scar. Yes. So those are some of the things that we can use, you know, even if you have to go to the hospital, you can stop the process and buy yourself some time. If you get a simple sprain, and you get some comfrey leaves, and you make a tea, you drink that tea. Comfrey helps to knit back broken tissue much faster. By the time you get to the hospital, they will want to know, why did you call us here? You know, why did you come here? These old-fashioned simple herbs used intelligently. Now, you notice the adjective, used intelligently, not indiscriminately, would recover many sick who have died using drug medication. There are many simple herbs which, if our nurses would learn the value of, they could use them in place of drugs. So for example, if a person is getting a stroke and you are present, you can put some cayenne pepper under the tongue. And that's very effective for reversing a stroke. Then if a diabetic has a sore, you know, you can pack it with some sugar. Putting the sugar externally does not do the same thing as internally. You pack that sore with the sugar. The sugar is astringent to the bacteria that is causing the infection, and they die and they won't heal. I've used it already. When my dad was diabetic, he had a sore. I just pack it with some sugar. Better yet, if you put a little iodine in it, it is going to kill those bacteria. Iodine is very disinfectant. and it's going to heal a lot faster. It would have been better if, from the first, all drugs had been kept out of our sanitariums. Better. And use had been made of such simple remedies as are found in pure water, air, sunlight, and some of the simple herbs growing in the field. We must always aim for better. We must show a superiority in our knowledge and in our skill and in our practice and in our ideas, because we believe in the God who is the author of all things. These would be just as efficacious as drugs used under mysterious names. And sometimes, that's one of the things in using the fancy names, people don't know what they do. And then the side effects are so fine, we cannot read them. And they would leave no injurious effect on the system. Many people, if you do the research, a lot of people die from using prescribed medication. Anything that affects the chemistry of the body is going to have an impact on the body. And what do drugs do? Drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, I should say, they affect the chemistry. It's chemical adjustment. Whether it is for your mental situations, it doesn't matter what it is. All drugs affect the chemistry. How does metformin bring down your blood sugar? How does it bring down? There are different methods by which it does that. It prevents the absorption of carbohydrates from the gut when you digest. It also prevents the liver from releasing the glycogen supplies. Now, the same mechanism for glycogen release is the same mechanism that produces CoQ10, which is the enzyme for heart function. Therefore, the diabetic is at higher risk of heart disease because of that. Now, when someone has polycystic ovaries, one of the medications they give is what? Metformin. Why? Because it is known that estrogen and insulin are acting together in that scenario to create the lack of development of the follicle. But that is not the problem, that's the result. The real issue is a dysregulation in the insulin at the cellular level. So insulin resistance is the cause of polycystic ovaries. And most of the other hormone-related issues in women and in men too, whether it be fibroids or endometriosis or cysts in the breast or even some of the cancers. Insulin is affecting how estrogen behaves. So then the simple solution would be reduce the carbohydrate load. And then you will decrease the insulin demand and those things will go away. So more deaths have been caused by drug taking than from all other causes combined. Multitudes of physicians and multitudes of drugs have cursed the inhabitants of the earth and have carried thousands and tens of thousands to untimely graves. You do the research and you see that. What was the use of herb? When was it instituted and by whom? Of course, God is the one. Man was given every herb-bearing seed as food at creation. Those things are what are healing to the body. Genetically, there's a science called nutrigenomics, how food communicates with the body. And God, the food that God made is genetically coded to be compatible with the human body. There are some 300,000 higher plant species that are all chemically distinct, but fewer than 10% of them have been carefully screened for medicinal or toxic constituents. So there are lots of plants that are not screened. Now the thing is, because we live in a scientific world, the scientific world is going to say, where is the research? Where is the data? Now plants are not allowed certain privileges that drugs are. For example, you have what you call risk to benefit ratio. That's not allowed in plant medicine generally. And then you have to understand what we call non-experimental verification of data. What does that mean? Because a lot of lab work is not being done with plants, as with drugs, you have what we call by use traditionally, we have the results, but a lot of people who get the results, they do not come forward to testify. So the evidence is limited. So that aspect of what we call non-experimental verification, because that is valid as well. People have used it and they have gotten benefits. Now we can say we can use that, you know, we use it with food, then why not use it with botanicals as well? And so there are some drugs that actually come from herbs, like your aspirin, that is used to thin the blood and relieve pain from the white willow bark, and the active ingredient is salicin. Or chloroquine, you know, used to treat malaria, and it is used now for what? You know, from the cinchona bark that is used in treating, you know what, COVID. The active ingredient is quinine. Yeah, so from plants, you do that. And then you have things like digoxin from the foxglove, and the active ingredient is digitalis, used to strengthen the heart, you know, in congestive heart failure. Morphine for pain from the poppy plant, opium is the active ingredient. Rezapine to decrease heart rate and blood pressure from the Indian snake root, and so on. So it's a lot of the ideas for drugs came from plants. Now, one of the things that the drug pharmaceutical industry has is what we call standardization. And here is where people need to use plants intelligently. And that's why I mentioned things like dosage and duration, and even the source of the plant, knowing the varying subspecies. There's an aspect of botanical taxonomy that is very helpful, and we will look at some taxonomy just a bit. Don't worry about all the Latin names. Just appreciate the fact that in classifying plants, you're now able to use them better. For you may not have a specific plant in your recipe, but there may be others in the family that may do the same thing. So let me give one. You have some plants that promote peristalsis, like Turkey rhubarb and burdock and senna and cascara sagrada. They all do the same thing, because even the green part of the aloe vera, they contain anthraquinone glycosides. What do? They improve intestinal motility by preventing the body from absorbing moisture and inducing peristalsis. Of course, if you're pregnant, you don't want to use them. So now in drug medicine, you can have standardization, you can have enhanced potency because they can control it in a lab, ease of administration in terms of dosage, widespread availability by sharing them through the pharmacies, and of course, you can make a whole lot of money. The truth is, healthcare should not be expensive. It really should be accessible to all. But you know, they say good thing and cheap thing not good. And some people, things that are cheap and work, people don't want to access them because they think it's not good because it's cheap. Last time I checked, you know, God provided water free of charge and air free of charge, and we take them for granted. There are simple herbs and roots that every family may use for themselves, and not to call a physician any sooner than they would call a lawyer. Again, it is with understanding. There are some things you may need to call a physician for, but there are lots of things you may not. Now, all drugs have what we call adverse reactions, side effects, and that may be determined by a person's own constitution, their own state of health, or the state of mind. What are those? What we call harmful, unintended reactions to medicines that occur at doses normally used for treatment. That's what we call an adverse drug reactions. And they are among the leading causes of death in many countries, because not everybody reacts the same way. Examples: amidoparine, used for inflammation. What does it cause? White blood cell disorder. Cleoquinol, for skin infections, visual impairment. Erythromycin, you know, it's an antibacterial. Hepatitis. Oral contraceptive causes blood clots. Yeah, and that's passionate to me. I will always say that my sister died from a blood clot from using oral contraceptive. The blood clot more than 1 inch when they did the autopsy. I saw it myself. Statin drugs for controlling cholesterol. Muscle degeneration is only one, but if you read the list, you will see over 89 side effects. Thalidomide, you know, for morning sickness, you know, disfigured infants, thalidomide, very, very, very powerful drugs for morning sickness. When morning sickness is simply the liver going into high detox mode to give the developing fetus the best chance for survival. What do you need? When if the liver is going into high detox, you need plenty of antioxidants. And that's why for morning sickness, we do a couple of things. You give magnesium, B6, and ginger, and that eliminates your morning sickness really easy. Yeah. Estimated 10-year death rate from medical intervention. Look at this. We're talking about over 1 million for adverse drug reaction, medical error, almost 1 million, bed sores, 1.1 million, nosocomial infections, 88 million, 0.88 million, malnutrition, over 1 million, outpatient, 1.9 million, unnecessary procedures, over 300,000, surgery related, over 320,000. And so, you know, these things are real for many people. Those who are not in the system and have not had the negative effects may not see it. But if you have a relative and you know you have to go and be waiting in the clinics and the drugs don't work, people, when they take them, they have side effects. You see health deteriorating and it becomes a reality. Is the medicine working? Medicine is not taking into consideration several things critically important to the health of the human. Number one, it doesn't take into account stress and how it adversely affects the immune system and life processes. And that's what we were talking about earlier if you were in the previous session. What does stress do? When you are under stress, you switch on the sympathetic nervous system, which locks off your digestion. So now if you're not digesting, remember enzyme production is going to be diminished. Absorption of nutrients is going to be difficult. Elimination of waste is going to be difficult. The drugs don't take into consideration the impact of stress. Stress increases inflammation. Inflammation means what? Damage to the body, irritations, tissue damage, trauma. Insufficient exercise. Of course, if you want things to move, then you have got to move. Moving is like recharging the batteries. All of our muscles are covered by fascia. The fascia is enhanced. It's like, think of it like closing the circuit in an electrical system. When you exercise, you produce more electricity and you need good electrical potential, not just for physical health, but for mental clarity as well. That is why you have electrolytes and minerals are electrolytes. Now, the next thing that when you exercise is that you move lymph because the lymphatic system is a passive system. There are no pumps in the system. There are one-way check valves. When you move, then you move lymph. And lymph is one of the ways that you what? Get rid of excess waste in the body before it returns to circulation. And also you nourish certain parts that don't have blood supply, like the lens of your eyes and so on. Those things are very important. So exercise, move lymph. And one of the best ways to move lymph, because the major lymphatic ducts pass through the chest, is to deep breathe. And one of the best forms of deep breathing, guess what it is? Singing. But not just singing any old thing, singing the songs that glorify God. All right, excessive caloric intake, too much carbs, people. If you take excess carbs, you inhibit your the operation of whatever you take to heal. Highly processed and denatured foods grown in denatured and chemically damaged soil, then you don't have the building blocks. Exposure to tens of thousands of environmental toxins. Instead of minimizing these disease-causing factors, we may cause more illness through medical technology, diagnostic testing, for example, things like mammograms, they squeeze up the breast and so on. These things are harming the body. Overuse of medical and surgical procedures and overuse of pharmaceutical drugs. The high disservice of this therapeutic therapy is the result of little effort or money being spent on preventing disease. Now, we need to spend more money on preventing. It's just that it's more difficult to measure preventing. It's easier to measure treatment. So now, let's look at the adverse reaction of thalidomide, which we mentioned before, that caused a lot of problems in birth, something that was designed to help people endure the pregnancy better. But when people don't understand, then this is the intervention that we are going to make. Remember, How does the dragon, the beast, manipulate us? Is by controlling the economy, how we transact in there, and education and religion. Now, the thing is, God designed the church, the people of his people, to understand these things and teach the world. But if we are educated just like them, then we are going to think just like them, and we are going to have the intervention just like them. So therefore, we'll have the results that they are getting. So most of our professionals, doesn't matter what the professionals are, think the same way as the world. And so the methods employed, the interventions are going to be the same. So that's one of the reasons people despise what we call our health message, because it's looked on as bush medicine. However, I've had the opportunity to work with several doctors at different levels and professors who have had health problems and nothing worked. And by showing them some simple remedies, explaining to them the science, they have had much better appreciation and have gotten relief. I'll just give you one. My boss, who is the county medical officer of health, he had a gas problem once, and it wasn't going away. Nothing he used, all the Pepto-Bismol and whatever for gas didn't work. And so he came to me and said, Mr. Bob, what can I use? I'm desperate. I said, get some fennel seeds and just chew it. Now, fennel may not apply with everybody. Some people make ginger may work and some cayenne may work, different things. I said, get some fennel and chew it. Just get one handful. He goes to the supermarket, buys some fennel and chew it, and his gas is gone. So now he is more, he has opened, the way is open now for him to embrace this kind of thing. And one of my other officers, I mean, these people are medical professionals. They're medical doctors. And now she was having a weight problem, and I shared some information. How does this thing work? She goes on a program, lose over 50 pounds. That's how we teach them. And now when they would do conferences and workshops, do you know what they started doing? They started changing the menu to the things I recommend. Now they're not having pastry at snack time. No, the food now is made of good vegetables, and they're bringing in good fruits for breakfast, you know, and so on. So we can have an impact when we take the time to understand, and don't just tell people, don't eat that and don't eat this. Explain to them. When I was doing epidemiology, my professor, one day I was sharing some information with some of my colleagues in diabetes during the break time. I didn't know she was listening. And at the end of it, she said to me, Mr. Bob, what you're saying is correct. I did my PhD in diabetes. So what you're saying is right. However, my mother is diabetic, my sister is diabetic, and I am pre-diabetic. I said, well, you know, those things can change. She said, but my mother does the cooking. And herein lies the problem. It is misunderstanding and misapprehension. So now she has all the theoretical facts, but she doesn't know how to apply it. So now that's where we come in as God's people. Show them how to apply it. I said, you have to let go the roti and the sada and all these things, and you have to embrace the vegetables, reduce the carbohydrate load so you can reduce the insulin demand. So now thalidomide, sold under Talomid, among others, is a medication used to treat a number of cancers, including multiple myeloma, graft versus host disease, and a number of skin conditions, including leprosy. While it has been used in a number of HIV-associated conditions, such use is associated with increased levels of the virus. So using it to do one thing, it does other things. First marketed in 1957 in West Germany as an over-the-counter drug. And when it was first released, it was promoted for anxiety, trouble sleeping, and morning sickness. While initially thought to be safe for pregnancy, concerns regarding birth defects arose how long after? 4 years after. And the medication was removed from the market in Europe that year. The total number of people affected by use during pregnancy is over 10,000. 40% died around the time of childbirth. So, and those who survived had limb, eye, urinary tract, and heart problems. And these are some of them here. Flipperseal babies. Now, what effect does antibiotics have on the body? Antibiotics, because in recent times, there is a great interest in the gut microbiota. Yeah, the gut microbiota, the bacteria and their genes, what they are doing. As a matter of fact, the gut is talking more to the brain than the brain to the gut. The gut is actually called the third brain. And for a lot of people, there is leaky gut, and leaky gut equals leaky brain. The enemy is manipulating us at levels that we need to be more conscious of. So now, the nightmare of severe bacteria invades the colon so that it has to be removed, or bacteria in the bloodstream results in death. So we have this antibiotics are wiping out. So a lot of children who are born with these respiratory conditions are given antibiotics. It is destroying their natural good bacteria and making them prone to all kinds of things. Now, these bad bacteria, they produce lipopolysaccharides. These lipopolysaccharides escape into the bloodstream and affect our thoughts. These things are very important. Of course, you have another one, reduce B vitamin and K vitamins. B vitamins are important not just for detox, but for cognition, to be able to think clearly. Vitamin K as well. Right. Now, antibacterial and antiviral inhibits the growth of and destroy viruses and bacteria that promote the body's immunity. These are some natural ones. And we're going to touch on some of these in terms of looking at some of the energetics. Aloe, astragalus, burdock, chaparral, echinacea, eucalyptus, garlic, you know some of them well. Golden seal, lemongrass. We have some of these things in the backyard. Cat's claw, one of my go-to. Boswellia, get frankincense, from one of the families of that. Red clover, very, very helpful. I remember there was one of my friends who was having some swelling in the feet, and we were doing the cayenne and the olive oil and so on, and we were getting good, and it was getting rid of, but slowly. And then we did some red clover and some olive oil, and in less than 24 hours, the swelling was gone. So there are things that you can do. If something doesn't work, God gives many things. Now, this is important to understand. In emergency, we may use a drug to buy time, but do not make drugs your friend and say there is no problem with it. Find a safe alternative. So we don't say don't use drugs or just throw away all your drugs. You're hypertensive. You need to be on your drug and take care of yourself. And you can take care of yourself by following the methods. The problem is most people are living by culture, tradition, and their taste buds. We have become very disobedient people, and so we have the problem of the disobedient. Yeah. So it's important to put that in perspective. Jeremiah 30:13 says, "There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicine." Why? Because very few people are teaching, and the voice is like the voice crying in the wilderness. The voice of modernization, of culture, modern culture is so loud that the voice of God is being drowned out. Drug medication, as it is generally practiced, is a curse. So it's not that you must never use it. If you have an infection, a bad infection, you need to get that treated with some drugs. If you use antibiotics, then you can flush them out of your system with some anti-inflammatory. Then if you get a gunshot, you get lacerations from a cut or something, or some blunt force trauma, you need to go and get yourself to the institution. So it's not that we are saying you don't ever. Educate away from drugs. Use them less and less and depend more on hygienic agencies. Then nature will respond to God's physician: pure air, pure water, proper exercise, and the clean conscience. And that's what we talk about. Many of the modern physicians do not always recognize the input of the thoughts and the feelings. Those who persist in the use of tea and coffee and flesh meats will feel the need for drugs, but many might recover without one grain of medicine if they would obey the laws of health. Drugs need seldom be used. So you use them only in case of emergency. So now we look at the parts of the plants that are used. because God made them with different parts, and based on the plant, then you use different parts or based on the situation. So we have the stem, maybe use of the roots or the leaves, the flowers, the seeds, the bulbs or the fruit. Different parts based on are applicable in different situations and different type of plants. Dry versus green herb. Many differences in the medicinal phytochemical is that so the main difference is that dry herbs are more potent. Why? Fresh herbs contain a lot of water. Dry herbs only 20% of water. So adding water to the dry herb by infusion is going to release more of the phytochemicals in the tea. Now, what are the phytochemicals in the tea? Now, those are some components that the plants produce because plants undergo stress. They are exposed to viruses and parasites, and God put in them the ability to produce these phytochemicals to survive. Because remember, plants were made for the service of man. Now, we're talking here about dry herbs in every formulation. Fresh herbs, you need to use 4 times more in the same recipe to get the same potency. So that's why we recommend dry herbs. So in terms of using as a tea, and there are some general recommendations here, the hard parts of the plants, which are like the roots and the seeds and the bark and the rhizome, in a decoction means that you are boiling that part in water as opposed to an infusion. So you make a decoction by boiling for 15 minutes and then draw for 40 minutes to 4 hours. So you're doing just boil it and just, a few minutes and then drink it. You need to be boiling for several minutes so that you will now cause those phytonutrients to be released, and then you let it draw. And then it's much more efficacious. Delicate plants like the leaves and the flowers and the buds, you do an infusion, you boil the water, and then you steep, or we call your draw it. We say that, Right, for combinations, you boil the hard part first for 15 minutes, then add the delicate parts and steep for 40 minutes to 3 hours. Keep covered while steeping to prevent the escape of the vapors. For in the vapors, you have what we call the volatile essential oils. And those are some of the most potent components of the plant. Drink as water through the day and do not add sweeteners to teas. No sweetener. Learn to appreciate the natural flavor and stuff. Best to make fresh batch of herb every day. So you don't put it up and, and so on. Poultices. Poultices are soft, moist plant tissue applied warm to the area of the body to alleviate pain or to draw out inflammation and infection. So not only to relieve pain. So for example, we use poultices a lot. Ginger poultice, you can use raisin poultice, you can do potato poultice, onion poultice. There are many poultices. As a matter of fact, one time I was having a back pain that was not a muscle pain. It was a nerve pain. Do you know what I did? I did a vervain poultice because I know vervain is going to calm the nerves down. So when you understand what a plant does, potatoes, highly anti-inflammatory. If you get inflammation of soft tissue, you can use potato poultice to have that down. Cabbage poultice for pain, in the knees and so on. And of course, you have turmeric as an anti-inflammatory. Charcoal poultice is very powerful in many areas. I remember went to Grenada, and my wife, she had, the mosquitoes were giving her a hard time. Now my blood didn't taste so good, so they didn't bite me, or my skin is insensitive. But whenever they bit her, it would become inflamed. We had nothing, and I said, okay, do you have some charcoal? Somebody had a pit that they made charcoal. We just got some, rubbed it on the skin, and in a short time, all the stuff went away, all that swelling went away. Also, if you have kidney issues and you want to detox your kidneys, then you can make a thick poultice with charcoal, about 1 inch thick, and apply them to the kidneys once or twice a day. To get the charcoal to wet, however, you may add some flaxseed or some psyllium husk. Comfrey is very important as well if you have like strains and sprains to joints. Comfrey is excellent for healing of those things. Best poultices are made from ground or granulated herbs, so you want to make them fine. Wash and clean the area where the poultice is to be applied. The main object is to have the warmth and moisture retained as long as possible. As you increase, as it's moist, you cause what we call simulate movement. In a lot of instances where you have swelling, that is what we call like a stagnation. That stagnation in there, you'll have a lot of white blood cells trying to fight infection. You are going to have a lot of waste being produced, and the poultice is going to have to pull those things out so that you don't have it continue in the body. Also, as it reduces the swelling, you don't have the surrounding tissue pressing against nerve, and so it relieves pain. Make the paste and apply it thick. If green leaves are used, you mash or beat them like in the cabbage leaf, and you put to the affected area. You can do onion poultice on the shoulders for pain. You just soak them in some water, make them big again, you crush them, and you apply that. Excellent for pain. All right. Pour bruised or powdered herb in a bowl with hot water. Gradually add grounded flaxseed to thicken. Add a little vitamin E to prevent skin from being wrinkled. And you spread the paste, evenly over the area, and you wrap in plastic to retain the moisture. And you wrap a band to keep it in place because you want it to stay there. Another example that I've used when my niece-in-law, who was asthmatic, wanted a pump in Grenada again. They didn't have any, so we were going to Grenada, and they said, please bring one. When I got there, I asked the mom, did you want to try something different? I said, listen, let's do an onion poultice. Onion is excellent as a poultice for the respiratory system. Chop some onion really fine. At the time, she was about 4 or 5. And we put it in a J-cloth, wrap it nice, put it on the chest overnight. We spent about 10 days there. After that night, she never exhibited any symptoms, did not have to use the pump. And to my knowledge, she's not using it today, and she's probably about 9 or 10. All right, in the Bible, have we used poultices? And the answer is yes. Hezekiah, in his healing from his terminal illness, a lump of figs was deployed. He's probably had some kind of stomach bug, stomach illness, whatever it was, maybe even a cancer, and it was used. So now there are some herbs you want not to use if you are pregnant, because like I said, they stimulate and initiate peristalsis, which is that movement to push things out, like your senna, wormwood, juniper, feverfew, cascara sagrada, barberry root, angelica, Chinese angelica, St. John's wort. By the way, St. John's wort is very helpful if you have pain in the shoulders that is the result of burden bearing, and that's an emotional thing. Celery, parsley, watercress, caffeine, chocolate, and tea. So these are some of the things that are not good. Some of them will reduce your progesterone level. And if your progesterone levels are low, then you can have spontaneous abortion, because this progesterone is one of the things that allows a woman to keep the baby. What is a tea? Tea is prepared by steeping the leaves of the tea in hot water. You have green tea and you have black tea, and then you have white tea and red tea and all different kinds of tea. We call everything that we steep tea, but tea is very specific, It's better to say make a decoction. Tea contains caffeine. Caffeine penetrates every cell of the body. Tea drinking causes vitamin B1 deficiency, which is very important in maintaining your thoughts. With our minds, we worship God. B1 deficiency leads to nervous disorders, Parkinson's disease. Why? Because it inhibits the action of glutathione. Glutathione is one of the most powerful antioxidants that is used in phase 2 detox in the liver for the removal of environmental toxins and toxic chemicals. So glutathione, the body makes that. So when you use caffeine, you inhibit that process. Neuralgia, pain in the nerves, fatigue, irritability, depression, digestive disorders, because when you use caffeine, it inhibits the enzymes in the stomach from functioning. Lack of appetite, constipation, because it draws water, cardiac failure. Many times I've been applied to for advice. This is God's servant talking about charcoal, sickness or accident. And I have mentioned some of these simple remedies, and they have proved helpful. On one occasion, a physician came to me in great distress. He had been called to attend a young woman who was dangerously ill. She had contracted fever while on the campground and was taken to our school building near Melbourne. Of course, but she became so much worse that it was feared that she would not live. What did they do? Dr. Merritt Kellogg, he went to God's servant, Sister White, and said, have you any light for me on the case? If relief cannot be given our sister, she can live but a few hours. What did she do? Go to the blacksmith and get some pulverized charcoal, make a poultice and lay it over her stomach and sides. The doctor did so. Soon he returned saying relief came in less than half an hour after the application of the poultice. She is now having the first natural sleep she has had for days. What did charcoal do? Pulled out the toxins that was in the system. Charcoal could do that. Health benefits of activated charcoal. Charcoal that activated means they would have added some oxygen in it. It relieves gas and flatulence because it pulls out the toxins. Most of the toxins in the stomach are caused by bad microbes. And so charcoal is able to absorb all those toxins so you don't produce the gas. Eliminates bad breath. It eradicates foul odors. Whitens the teeth. Filters impurities. Most filters use what we call a carbon filter, charcoal. Remove acidic plaque. Absorption rate of 1 minute. Listen, very fast it works. Relieve inflammation and pain. Reduces acne and improves skin health. Anything that this removes and destroys harmful microbes are going to cause an improvement in the health. Heals ulcers, very, very important. Here's a remedy for coughs. Boil 1 cup boiled honey, and the reason for that is because some honey are not pure. In our region, we get a purer honey. Our grade, it tends to be higher. Add a few drops of food grade eucalyptus oil and take 1 teaspoon every 2 hours for coughs. Warm foot bath with eucalyptus leaves are also very helpful. The eucalyptus plant, and they affect the respiratory system. Very potent for the respiratory system. But not just for the respiratory system, they also affect the emotions. And I'm going to share an experience that I had with using these plants on emotional healing. Now, to quiet the nerves, 1 cup made of catnip tea. Catnip is very, very helpful for calming the nerves. Passion flower. You have valerian, passion flower. We use that especially for hormone issues as well. Ashwagandha, one of the best adaptogenic herbs. Those herbs that bring things into balance. Rosemary, especially you can use that for the respiratory system and many other things. Chamomile for the nerves, hops, lady slippers, and valerian. Congestion and sinus and colds and headache. What do you do? Yes, hot foot bath, and you put a little mustard in there. Very, very helpful for that. That's one good way to use mustard. Don't eat it. Right? Colds and flu remedies. Garlic, we know about that. Ginger, echinacea, citrus, golden seal. Most of these are antimicrobial. Onion, charcoal, 2 tablespoons to 8 ounces of water, followed by 2 cups of water. I've used charcoal, especially if the symptoms are now coming on. You get 4 capsules, you drink that up with some water, or you get like a teaspoon or so, and 2 teaspoons, and you put it in water and you drink it. Very, very helpful. Golden seal, one of my go-to antimicrobial herbs. Echinacea, especially if you start to get those flu symptoms. Ginger, I just chew the ginger and swallow the juice. Powerful, especially if you have things like your adrenal fatigue. And garlic, of course, we know. Now, 3 herbs for bronchitis: licorice, garlic, English ivy, plantain. That's the plantain I was talking about. Plantain is a mucilaginous herb that is very helpful as an anti-inflammatory for the respiratory system. You also have herbs like lobelia, yeah, lobelia and mullein, very helpful. All right, blood cleansers, burdock, red clover, sheep sorrel, and hyssop, blood cleansing herb. Liver cleansers, you know, dandelion, milk thistle, chicory. I always say, if I have to drink coffee, I'll drink chicory. It looks like coffee, smells like coffee, even sometimes tastes like coffee, but is not coffee. Very powerful for the liver. All right, cleansing the kidneys, corn silk, uva ursi, parsley. These are things that, especially the parsley, we use parsley not just for the kidneys, but for reducing enlarged prostate. Prostate is enlarged, it's blocking the urethra. What do? Then we do parsley and ginger juice. Very effective in reducing swelling of the prostate. All right, herbs to cleanse the lungs. You see, we have mullein and eyes bright. Even though it's called eyes bright, it has a profound impact on the lungs as well. If you want it to work really fast, then you add some lobelia to it. Use them as tincture. Herbs that stimulate and cleanse the lymphatic system, that backdoor system that God has designed to keep us healthy. As a matter of fact, the lymph is the environment in which the cells live. It's called the biological terrain. When the lymphatic system is not clean, then illness occurs. Therefore, interventions for treating or healing must aim at stimulating the lymphatic system. You have garlic, astragalus, black walnut. We're going to talk about black walnut in a bit. Chaparral, dandelion. You see what these are doing here now is that when the liver is working well, then it gives the lymphatics the opportunity to do its work better. Echinacea, dandelion, you know, goes well with, you know, some stimulant like ginger or peppermint. And that's very true. So when I had some stressful situations a couple months ago, my dad passed, I was in a lot of pain. My shoulders were paining so much. What did I do? I called up one of my fellow professionals and friend who said, listen, you need to get some anti-inflammatory. What did we do? Peppermint and rosemary as a tea several times in the day. And voila, by the next day, all the pain was gone. So it helped me physically and also emotionally. Emotional pain, and listen to the name, rosemary. The rose plants, they bring in peace and love emotionally, right? Flow of urine, corn silk. Yeah, people have water retention, kidney stones, scalding urine, obesity, lymphatic swelling, corn silk, gravel root, burdock, hawthorn berries, you know, cranberries. These plants have different types of actions. For example, cranberry will prevent microbes from sticking on to the wall of the bladder and causing infection. So that's how that works. Corn silk is going to cause you to urinate better. Things like your gravel root and your burdock will prevent the building up of the stones. Those are calcium deposits and so on. Then to build the immune system, there we have camu camu, important in helping in fighting viral infections. Cat's claw, one of my go-to anti-inflammatories. Turmeric, chicory, chlorella, spirulina, kelp, and sheep sorrel. So now let's look at one herb, just looking at how it operates. A major constituent found in black walnut leaves and hull is juglone, which has antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and antiparasitic action. Juglone oxidizes as the plant dries, so you will get more if you tincture the fresh leaves or green hulls. So as the plant dries, it oxidizes. That's why there are different ways of preparing the plant. Black walnut is a potent remedy for many kinds of infections and parasites. As a matter of fact, most times you have parasite, you do some black walnut, destroys them. This non-toxic antiparasitic is suitable for both children and pets. Juglone in black walnut makes it useful for many kinds of infection. It helps to balance intestinal flora, getting rid of yeast and harmful bacteria. It can even be helpful with some viral infections like cold sores and herpes. It is helpful for infections both internally and topically. I tell you, God is so awesome. He wants to heal us all the way through. Black walnut is also a tonic to weak tissue, having a mild toning and astringent action. It tightens up loose tissue. The toning action may be stronger in the leaves, but both the leaves and the hull help to tone up the intestinal wall and are one of the best remedies for leaky gut syndrome. So when we do our leaky gut syndrome, we're going to come back to black walnut. They're also helpful for ulcerations, inflammatory bowel disease, diarrhea, hemorrhoids. A lot of folks have hemorrhoids, the ballooning of the lower part of the rectum, intestinal prolapse, and diverticulitis. Yeah. Now, the toning action of black walnut is helpful for mucous membranes in general, like the stomach and so on. It can be used internally for sore throat, tonsillitis, nasal catarrh, hoarseness of the voice. It can be applied topically for impetigo, abscesses, boils, acne, eczema, itching skin, poison ivy, and shingles. The crushed leaves or extract are helpful when applied to injuries like cold sores and skin infection. An easy way to use it is to soak a cotton ball or some gauze with the tincture and apply topically and cover with a bandage, and they change it every couple of hours. So let's look at the profile of some what we call aromatic herbs that we use especially for seasoning. Aromatic, they have a nice smell, they add flavor. Chamomile is one of them that we use, and we're just going to do a little bit of taxonomy. I'm not going to just go into all the names, but just suffice it to say that plants can be classified based on the characteristics, and the characteristics help us to be able to use them better. So it's from the family what we call Asteraceae, or the Aster family, and the species is Matricaria, and the parts used is the flower. Now you have the Roman chamomile and you have the German chamomile, right? So not all are the same, they are different. What are some of the constituents of chamomile? They are volatile oils, which means that those volatile oils give it its calming and anti-inflammatory properties. Also, as a sedative, it calms the nerve, so it helps you to rest better, and it's anti-spasmodic. It prevents spasm. And there are some components, azulene and bisabolol, two are the most powerful anti-inflammatories. There are also flavonoids, which are anti-inflammatory. And as we said, bisabolol speeds up tissue healing. So when you drink chamomile, chamomile is going to help in healing gut issues, or you can even use it externally as an inflammatory. As one day, my mom took some Robitussin, and she started to exhibit allergic reactions. It was 8 o'clock in the night, nowhere's open. What did I do? I just got some chamomile tea, and she drank it, and then she felt better. She could have also used it externally, and it would have reduced the inflammation of the skin. All right, yeah. It also has what we call sesquiterpene lactones. What are the energetics? So you may hear me talk about energetics. It is sweet, aromatic, and slightly bitter. It's cooling, relaxing, or slightly drying. So now it has a cooling effect. So if there is anxiety, or there is what we call upregulation of a system, it's going to calm it down. And of course, it's slightly dry, and slightly mean that there is going to be some use of removal of moisture, but it is slightly, so you don't have to worry, as opposed to something like cayenne pepper. So if you drink peppermint tea, cayenne tea, or ginger tea, they may cause you to sweat and lose moisture, not chamomile. It's going to calm you down. What tissue states that you use it in? Irritation. Irritation is when something just starts. It's the best time you want to intervene to help it. Or where there's constriction. Constriction is in what we call the subacute stage of disease, when you have gone below the line of normal health and you start to feel pain that you cannot function. And it is what we call a third-degree remedy. Chamomile is not something you want to just be drinking every day, all the time, right? Third degree, it is medicine, it is not food. Right, you have the essential oils, which are highly anti-inflammatory, especially for intestinal inflammation. As a matter of fact, chamomile is one of the things that also is an antiparasitic, because it destroys the scolex of the parasites, which is the part that hooks onto the intestine. Sometimes the worms die, but the scolex remain and can grow back. It relaxes the nervous system. It is helpful for indigestion and gas. It regulates the vagus nerve. Remember, the vagus nerve is communicating with the brain, giving the brain instruction as to how to behave. All right, it can be applied topically as a wound healer. If you are out in the desert and you have injuries, you know, and you want to clean your wound, you have nothing else, you don't have your whatever alcohol and so on, you can use chamomile to do that. What are some of the promises? The properties, sorry. Anodyne, it means that it relieves pain, anti-inflammatory, antispasmodic, carminative, diaphoretic, you know, it helps you to, you know, reduce those swelling due to water retention. Yeah, you can rejuvenate the skin. It's a sedative, helps you to relieve, you know, the stomach problems and so on. The systems that it works on, this one herb, on the bladder, the bronchioles, the circulation. In other words, those things that tend to be aggravated and irritated and upregulated, chamomile is going to calm them down. The eyes, the intestinal system, the kidneys, the liver, the muscles, the spleen, the stomach, and in the uterus, it stimulates flow. Historical uses of chamomile, we're talking about in abscesses, even to help in alcoholism. You drink some chamomile tea, it's going to reduce the cravings. In colds and colic, even in corns, you know, cysts in the breast, drug addiction and gas, hyperactivity, indigestion, inflammation, insomnia, fever, because remember it's going to calm you down, lack of appetite, muscle pain, nervous disorders, poor circulation, smoking can help in the quitting of smoking, tardy menstrual flow, because remember, chamomile is bringing things into balance. Teething, especially for little children, toothache and ulcerations. All right, best use, you know, it has been used in those areas, but the best use for chamomile, indigestion, gas, stomach pains, gastritis, ulcers. It's a mild sedative for nervousness and peevishness. Useful remedy for colds and fevers in children, especially when combined with elderflower, peppermint, and or yarrow. So you can take that formula down: chamomile, elderflower, peppermint, or yarrow. All right, very helpful for colds and flus, and it is used for teething for irritable children. Catnip, I'll just touch on catnip, is called Alka-Seltzer, natural native Alka-Seltzer, that kind of almost cure for all. Of course, these are the constituents. I wouldn't go through all this and make you confused with all the big words, but it's very cooling and drying and slightly relaxing. And where do you use it? When you have overall irritation. So sometimes I may eat something and I find, wow, this thing is taking a little while to get through my system. I take some catnip as a tea. Where there's constriction and so on, you want to use your catnip, is very beneficial. And again, it's a third degree remedy, which means it's medicine. It's not to be drunken every day. What are the properties? Anti-pain, it's excellent for the digestive system, antispasmodic, calms the nerve, you know, help you to balance your water intake and so on and so on, affects the nerves and so on. Your temperature regulation, it really kind of relaxes you. The systems that it affects the brain, because whatever calms the stomach helps the brain. The bronchioles, the intestines, the nerves, the respiratory system, the stomach, and the sweat glands. Typically used for aches and acid indigestion, acne, addictions. So you see chamomile and catnip having some similar functions because they belong to a similar category. Chicken pox, childhood diseases, colds and colic, convulsions, you know, fevers in children, flu, gas and bloating, insomnia, measles, mumps, nervous disorder. You can use it as tea, especially you make the catnip. They use the bark, the branches sometimes, if they use the leaves, And once you're doing the leaves, you remember you make an infusion. If you're doing the hard part, it's a decoction. You have to actually boil it for a little while. Best uses of catnip. Combined with fennel to treat colic. Fennel, remember, is one of the herbs that have a profound impact on the digestive system. Can also help gas and bloating in adults. You make a tea with catnip and fennel. Eases acid indigestion in adults. I use it myself for that. May be helpful as a diaphoretic for fevers, colds, and childhood diseases like chickenpox and measles. Warm tea or extract with warm water. All right. Relaxes tension in the stomach. Eases stomach pains. Calms restlessness and anxiety, especially in children. Works better, that was supposed to be better, when combined with other calming nervines, of course. And it's an insect repellent. And so there are many things that we can use. And we have the peppermint family, and you have your spearmint, and the main constituents there is the menthol. That is really, really helpful. Menthol, things like are really, really helpful for the respiratory system. They are aromatic, and they're very important in lifting the spirits. We've done that a lot of times. Sometimes a person may have a headache or they're really feeling down. We just put some peppermint, maybe in some hot water, drink some peppermint tea, and it lifts their spirits. Peppermint now is both second and third degree, so you can use peppermint more than you could use chamomile and or catnip. And that's so how we kind of use them, reducing pain and to calm the nerves and to really stimulate well-being. It affects the immune system, the intestines, the mucous membranes, the nerves, and so on. So these are just a couple of the herbs that you would be familiar with, that you can use to good effect simply without risk of affecting people and having to know a whole lot. A lot of times, I remember I was talking to a client on the phone. She said, I have a headache. She said, do you have peppermint oil? Yes. I said, just go and get one drop and you put it by your nostrils, which she did. And we continued talking. In 10 minutes, I said, how are you feeling now? Wow, the headache is gone. Peppermint is primarily a pneumodilator, opens up the airway, get more oxygen in. More oxygen means cells are activated. More activation means nutrients can be absorbed. Circulation is going to be improved and health is going to be improved. So now you have a couple of tools. Those simple things that we know. Chamomile, simple. Fennel, we can get those. Those are simple things without risk, just to help people to be relieved. If you cannot help people to be relieved from simple things like a headache or a little pain somewhere, then why would you want to know how to remove diabetes? Diabetes is much more complicated, or high blood pressure. Understand the simple things, and then the complicated things become much easier. May God bless you, and may you grow in His grace. Use them on yourself. Practice them on you. Get them in your kitchen. Get them in your bag. Me, I'm always walking around with cayenne pepper and peppermint. I have a little vial of peppermint oil in my pocket all the time. I use it on myself. I help people with it. Chamomile. These are simple things as I go from day to day. The experience, I think I shared it the last time. I went to do an evangelistic series in Trinidad. And here was this guy, he came. He was one of the alcoholics in the village. Someone invited him and he was asthmatic. I would go down to the area at 6 o'clock and meet with the people and pray with them and counsel with them. And he forgot that, even he forgot to walk with his little puff. And he was starting to feeling tight in the chest. I had my cayenne liquid there. I said, are you strong? He said, yes. I gave him a little squirt in his mouth. In 5 minutes, it went away. He was feeling better. The Sabbath, he was one of the people who decided to give his life to Jesus. Simple methods. By using simple methods, you will get confidence to use more complicated methods. We will be able to learn how to do formulations because there are laws as to how you put these things together. More than that, you'll be able to identify some of these things, not simply by name, but in a field setting so you can utilize them for the honor and glory of God. God be with you. Thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so I'm seeing a question here. Before recommending any type of herb, should consideration be made if persons are on medication or if they can have, of course, yes, that's very, very important. So now you must know what the person is on, because most people don't always tell you all the truth unless you ask. So it's important. Yeah. Someone said, I get a reaction to garlic. Is there a substitute? Well, it's not really substitute, then it depends on what you're using it for. Like we said, everything would not agree with everybody. So what are you using it for? Now, some people like to use garlic for high blood pressure. And I say, if garlic was the cure for high blood pressure, then nobody would have it because everybody uses garlic. What garlic does is that it's going to help us because it is what we call a pungent herb. It opens up the blood vessels. It helps them to become more supple, but it's not the cure for blood pressure. Now, blood pressure primarily is a dysregulation of insulin, which affects the endothelial cells. So the best way to deal with your blood pressure, leave off the carbs, go back to vegetables, go back to a natural diet, and you're going to be much better. Should I dry the chamomile before use? Well, one of the things is that you have to get a whole lot of flower, yeah? So if you use the chamomile tea that you purchase, it's not bad. You can use that, but you have, yes, you should dry them before, because remember, fresh herb has a lot of water, and you would have to use a whole lot to be able to really get the same efficacy. All right, let me see if I can see some more the chat is saying. All right. Okay. Hope for stop smoking. Right now, there are several things that you can use to stop smoke. Of course, we have the catnip, but a very effective remedy for helping to stop smoke is honey, peppermint, and spearmint. You mix a combination, 1 cup of honey, and you do 4 tablespoons of peppermint, a couple drops of spearmint. No, not 4 tablespoons, sorry, drops of peppermint and spearmint. And you take, every time you get the urge, you take a tablespoon. That's helpful. Remedy for headache, right? So just 1 drop of peppermint, and you just rub it in the front of the nostrils, and you take your time and you breathe. A lot of times, not all the times, headaches are due to a lack of oxygen in the blood supply. So when you do that, you are actually enhancing the oxygen uptake by your body. All right, celery, do you recommend celery juice and beet juice for cleansing? All right, now celery is, from how I use celery, is not as a cleanser, but more as a builder, because celery has a lot of nutrients in it, a lot of nutrients, especially minerals and trace minerals. So one of the things, especially people who are having like loose tissue and difficulty losing weight and so on, celery adds a lot of minerals that help you to those processes to be accommodated a whole lot better. All right, cysts in the breast. Cysts in the breast is especially you're looking at an imbalance in your estrogen and progesterone. So number 1, your stress level needs to be reduced. Stress takes progesterone and converts it to cortisol. Stress also impacts the digestive system, so that now you have what we call a high insulin demand. That is the driver behind a lot more things than people think. That high insulin demand makes the cells insensitive. And remember, insulin affects how estrogen behaves. And as we said, that is why when you get polycystic ovaries, they give you metformin to keep the blood sugar down. Because blood sugar levels are affected by insulin, and also estrogen and insulin are what we call anabolic hormones. They cause growth. They cause growth. Okay. What type of mustard do you recommend? You just get the mustard seeds, not the mustard, not the mustard paste. Sorry, the mustard seed that they would normally retail, and you put that in the in the water. All right, let me see if I can see another one. All right, this one, the garlic. Yeah, we think I did that one. Whatever does not agree with you, then you leave it alone. What are your views on using aloe vera for cuts, scrapes, and burns on the skin? All right. So now aloe vera is very soothing. Yes, it does. They are, depending on the injury, use different things. So for example, for burns, I do lavender essential oil. I've had much success with that. Even people, I remember there are two significant cases. One is a young man, him and his cousin, they were playing around with a grill. They didn't get any fuel to light it. So he decided to use some insect spray. And when he lit it, it blew up in his cousin's face and it burned his entire face. When he came from the hospital, I gave the grandmother some lavender oil. She put it there. It heals without scarring. Lavender oil helps you to heal burns without scarring. The next one was, let me see if I could find that presentation. I'll show you the skin, as we just talked to that. Lavender really helps to heal without scars. It's a very powerful essential. The essential oil is very powerful. If I can just find it here, let me see. I will show it to you. Actual a testimony of someone who had some burns, and then the use of lavender oil we use to heal them. Let me just see if I can find it here. Just give me a minute there. Let me see if I could find it here. Right. Let me see if I can find it, because lavender is very powerful, especially for burns. You want something to soothe the skin. You want that to happen. Where is it? No. I am not seeing it here. I'm just trying to find it so that you can actually see some live examples of the power, just by using simple things that are really, right there before our very eyes. We have them there, and sometimes we just don't know. We just don't know. Where is it? It's like it's eluding me. I don't know where it's gone now, but I will find it and just show it to you, as we may just take some more questions. So if you may have a question that you may want to ask, you can do that. And yeah. All right, so now I'm just going to show you, I think I got it here. So I'm back now. Let me just show you something here. These are things that some of you may have seen already. This is, okay. Right. So this is a finger, and this is a real finger. This is a fungus on the finger. And just by using water therapy, hot and cold, 3 to 4 times a day, avoiding soap and these things, this is the result in 3 months. So this is a finger before. Now this is 3 months after. The doctor said this could not come back. And this is the result in just simply using water therapy. All right, so this is the young lady. She got burns, and I got the permission to use the picture. So she got burned on her face. These are the burns here. So when she came, these are the pictures she showed me, right? Really burned on the face. That is after 1 application of lavender essential oil. All right, this is after 2 days. All right, so you see all the skin is coming off and it's healing nicely. This is after 3 days. And this is her after 2 weeks. And this is not because she put on makeup to hide it. Lavender helps to heal burns without scarring. All right? Yeah. Yeah. So there are lots of things that can happen if people just knew what to do. It would really be helpful. Let me see if there's another question.
Wow, that was an amazing picture, Doc.
Yeah, yeah. This is
I am shocked.
yes.
I don't know what you might have to say.
Yeah.
Wow,
There are lots of
that
things
is amazing.
just by God has provided all we need. It's to understand it and to use it, effectively. Or, for example,
Wow.
I use lavender oil. If I'm entering into a stressful situation, somebody may call me and I have to go. I have to go. Maybe as you're into to ministry, and you have families in crisis. So before I leave home, of course, I pray and I put a drop of lavender behind my ear to keep me calm in the situation, because sometimes they're potentially explosive. It helps to keep one very calm. So there are many things out there that can be used. And, like I was sharing with folks, because of my energy level, I am prone to leaching my important nutrients like magnesium. So I usually have to take high doses because my mind is so active that I utilize my nutrients a lot. So I'm prone to having what you call sciatica. Sciatica actually is a magnesium deficiency. So once I keep my magnesium up, I don't get it. But every now and again, I may overdo it and then I start to get that pain. What I do, I just increase my magnesium intake and the pain is gone in less than a day. But it may leave some soreness in the muscle now. And then I use an anti-inflammatory like a eucalyptus species, and then it eases the inflammation. So there are simple things that people don't have to always suffer. You have a herniated disc, you have green purple poultice, and so on. As people now hear of those things and they use them, always remember, if you use them on yourself first, then you know that it works. So you're not talking what somebody else just said. Now, not everything you have to use on yourself. Start in the family. Help people to understand. When my brother came back from Canada, he's wearing shades. He's not like me. I had an accident, so that's why I wear glasses. And he couldn't handle the glare. And I put one drop of lemon juice in his eyes. Wow. He said, wow, I don't need to wear the shades anymore. Why? He was not producing enough tears. So his eyes were dry. And so the glare was affecting him. The lemon juice is an astringent and it's going to stimulate tear production. Tears have lysine. Lysine is going to now remove all those things that are hampering his sight. So that's how that works.
Awesome. I see you have about 8 people that had their hands up.
Okay, right. I can't see them, so could you guide me through that?
Yeah,
please?
yeah. Let me see here. Q&A. Let me go into this Q&A section. It says Alicia is asking, what is antimicrobial? Does that deal with parasites? If someone using garlic, golden seal, and ginger, often which is antimicrobial, should they still do wormwood treatment if they think they have parasite symptoms like anemia and inability to gain weight?
All right. So now, many plants operate on several levels, but some they have what we call affinity of the plant to certain things. So if you're using garlic and these variant things, they can help. What I found, garlic is better as an antiparasitic if used in the soles of the feet. That's what I found. You crush the garlic, you put it under your feet, and you put a sock on overnight. It works better that way for me. Now, other people may want to use it in another formulation with other things. Things like, okay, antimicrobial means it affects or destroys different types of microorganisms: bacteria, fungus, virus, parasites, protozoa, rickettsia, varying kinds. So it has a broad spectrum. The effectiveness of it will have to do with the person's constitution and how they use it over time. So a lot of antimicrobials may kill the microbes, but not the eggs.
True.
Right. So now that's why they come back or seem to come back after a while. You kill the adults, but not the eggs. Things like black walnut and wormwood, however, they are more specific to parasites. So they do a better work on parasites, which are microscopic animals, as opposed to bacteria. When you want to deal with things like bacteria, you may want to use what we call more your aromatics. They deal better with those. So now, in applying a remedy, it will depend on what you're trying to deal with. Golden seal, excellent as an antimicrobial, but it doesn't mean it wouldn't help with parasites, but it depends on which one. If we do some entomology, we will get into a wider range of parasites, so then you'll see how to apply different remedies. But this course, to get into that, you'll need what we call an advanced course will get into some entomology to help you to understand how the different bugs work, because they have different characteristics. And so in a program like this, we give a lot of what we call general information, so you'll get an idea. If I am to have a go-to anti-parasitic, I would say more black walnut, wormwood. Garlic would work as well. The core of the pineapple will work as well. The core has a lot of bromelain, which is the microbes hate. You have also things like pumpkin seed. Parasites hate pumpkin seed, but you must use it for at least 3 days. You can even use milk, but don't drink it. When you use the pumpkin seed, if you sit over a bucket with some milk in it, the parasites would rush out faster to get food. So that's how you do the milk. You don't drink it, you sit over it. And the parasites are going to start to jump out, especially if you have things like tapeworms and so on. So there are many things that can be used in that instance.
All right, there's one in the chat there, Dr. Bob from Direct. Could you please further explain that hot and cold therapy for the fungal finger?
All right. So now, what the remedy that I used was, you do 90 seconds of hot as you can stand, and 30 seconds of cold, alternately. Hot as you can stand, not to burn you, 90 seconds. And then after 90 seconds, you do cold, ice cold. And then you go hot and cold in a cycle of 5, 3 times a day, every day. During that time, you are not going to be washing the dishes. You are not going to be putting your hands in all these acidic soap powders and so on. You have to keep that finger as dry as possible. And eventually you're going to, as the fungus is destroyed, it's going to start to rebuild the tissue. So again, let me say that 90 seconds of hot as you can stand, 30 seconds of ice cold in a cycle of 5. You do it 5 times in one go, 3 times a day.
Okay. I think that there was someone was asking about mammograms. Is it safe to get those or not to get them?
It's not the best thing because there's too much compression of the tissue, and it may actually cause more damage. An ultrasound is better, but it is one of the things that they used. But for the women who go through a mammogram, when they tell you of the experience, is not is not a pleasant one. So the mammograms are actually being phased out, and they're using ultrasounds more these days.
Okay. Next question is, does Epsom salt treat male fungus as well?
Right. Epsom salt treat what?
Male fungus?
Nail fungus.
Nail fungus, yeah.
Now, I have never used it. It may be part of a therapy, but I would want to understand the mechanism that it may do. I don't know. I've never used that for dealing with fungus. I've used, there are other things that have been used for fungus, but not, I've not used Epsom salts. But I'm not saying it can't, but I'm not aware.
All right, questions and answers says, what herbal recommendation would you make for treatment of an enlarged prostate? Person has to be wearing a catheter.
All right. Yeah. So the thing about an enlarged prostate, we have to go back to what we call what is causing it in the first place. So we're going to use, and this is general, it may not be specific for you, but one of the first things to reduce the swelling is the parsley and the ginger juice. So if a person were to call me now or anytime and they say, oh, wow, I'm having that swelling and having that pain, I can't urinate, parsley and ginger is going to help that in less than an hour. Then we'll have to go through some therapies of making the lifestyle changes. What I've found is that people with prostate cancer have a lot of emotional baggage. What's happening is that the body's normal testosterone under the action of aromatase, which is the enzyme in the final cascade in the production of estrogen in men, is high. So now the testosterone is being converted to an estrogen-like testosterone, which is dihydrotestosterone. We have to inhibit that enzyme from doing that. And you do that with something called chrysin and foods that contain what we call quercetin, and increasing the progesterone level. How do you do that? Number one, reduce stress. Men are not talking enough and being open emotionally. Let me say that again. Men have too much on their inside. When you have that high stress level, it is going to affect your testosterone in time. Why? Young men do not get prostate problems. Right. The next thing is that you have to follow the laws of health. Your exercise, going to bed on time, putting things to rest, forgiveness. All these things affect your testosterone level. Reduce the stress, because once you're under stress, your body is naturally going to take your progesterone and convert it to cortisol, and take your pregnenolone and convert it to cortisol and not to testosterone. So it's important to put this in perspective.
All right. Doc, you mentioned earlier, you mentioned about shoulder pain and how you were in pain and you used rosemary and peppermint.
Yes.
As a combination. Was that the peppermint? You made the rosemary tea and then you just dropped some peppermint drops in it? Or you had the actual peppermint plant?
Yeah, the actual plant. So one of the things that you would want to do when you're in this ministry, start to develop your herb garden. So I have the actual rosemary, I have the actual peppermint. So I just went in the backyard, I picked about 4 or 5 leaves and I made a tea. And I drank it. So that's important. So things like tarragon and St. John's wort, these are little plants that you can put in pots and you can have around your place and use them as your anti-inflammatory, not just for you, but for others. And what I do is I propagate them. So for example, the seeds of the plantain plant is where you get psyllium husk from. So as they propagate, because you don't even have to do anything, you don't even have to nurture them. These plants are going to grow without much care. And then I will share the plants with folks so they can have some too. And they could help other people, and help themselves as well.
Right. So how effective was that though? How quick did you experience
less than a day?
Less than a day, the pain was gone. Yeah, and so what did you do for the onion poultice for the shoulder pain? Because I heard you mention that before as well.
Right. Now the onion poultice was for the chest, the asthma. For the shoulder, besides the tea, another thing that can be used based on what is the cause of the pain. So my pain came from having to do a whole lot of stuff and looking at my father take his last breath. So I had that emotional baggage and I went to plan the funeral. But if a person is carrying a lot of burdens, you have to do everything in your family, then St. John's wort is one of the things that you can use just as a tea as well. Or you can do what we call a raisin poultice. You get some raisins, you put them in some water, and they will just become like grapes again. You throw up that water and you just crush them, and you make the poultice again, put it in your J cloth, and you put it over the area.
With
Very
just raisins?
helpful. Pardon?
With just raisins, or you're mixing it with something else?
Just raisins, just raisins. And that helps to pull inflammation out.
Okay.
The shoulders. Now you don't want to, you wouldn't put that on your knees. The knees now is where you use like your cabbage leaves. The ankles, you use something like comfrey. Yeah. The back, the vertebrae use green papaya. Yeah. So there are different plants because the plants have what you call affinity to different parts.
Right, right, correct.
Yeah.
All right. Someone is asking, what could be, did you have a name for the shoulder pain? I don't know.
The plant St. John's wort. St. John's wort is one of the plants that I would have mentioned.
So you can use the tea bag, you said, right? You can drink the tea or.
Yeah, the tea, yeah.
Okay.
St. John's to make the tea. Yeah, you make the tea, yes.
All right. And there's another question here. What could be used for allergies?
All right, allergies is primarily a bowel issue. Most people, if you have African descent, you are more than likely allergic to wheat. So one of the first things I would say, stop using wheat. Because most times what you do is they will give you an antihistamine. Now, antihistamine doesn't always work because based on the problem, now you have what we call a process in the liver called methylation. You have what we call over-methylators and under-methylators. If you are over-methylating, then giving antihistamines does not work. If you're under-methylating, then it would work. So you can have the same symptoms, but based on the cause, it would not work. So the first thing is to fix the bowel issue. Take wheat out, because wheat burns the villi and prevents us from absorbing nutrients. And those are the reason we feel the allergies, where we feel them, especially in the respiratory system, is because the body does not have the energy to push them down. So it pushes it up. And the respiratory system is the second favored channel of elimination. So when you fix the bowel, those things are going to go away.
Okay. All right. What herb can assist in the reduction of nodules on thyroid gland?
So not using the thyroid gland. That's an interesting one because we just did some work on the thyroid gland. You have things like your bugleweed. Bugleweed is very helpful in that situation. Bugleweed, selenium, myrrh essential oil used externally, ashwagandha. Those are very helpful for dealing with those things.
All right, there's a person here that's, I am diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. My neck is stiff and paining. Haven't slept in 2 consecutive nights because I have to keep turning almost every 5 minutes. How can I get some relief from this neck pain?
Yeah, so now you're going a 3-day juice fast. No carbohydrates. And you don't mix the juice. You are going to now use one juice at a time. So if you did apple juice made fresh yourself, not store-bought. Celery juice. Your body needs a lot of nutrients that is not getting, it's pulling the nutrients from your bone to keep you healthy. That's a very acidic body. It is your own immune system attacking you and destroying you. That's what rheumatoid arthritis is, as opposed to osteoarthritis. So your body is pulling the nutrients from your bone to keep you alive as long as possible. So the first thing is not to relieve the pain, is to remove the cause. Stop using all processed foods, all dairy, all animal products, all wheat-based products. Any bread, bake, pasta, cakes, roti, pizza, pasta, potatoes, even white potatoes. Do a 3-day juice fast. Just by doing that, you'll see how much relief you are going to get. I'm going to give you a story. There was a young lady who had rheumatoid arthritis, and her sister who works with me, I said, listen, we have to help this girl. I went to the home And I said, listen, you can get help. And the nice thing is that she believed. That day they had cooked roti and all kinds of things. She said, no, I'm not going to eat it. I said, come off these things. And we could put her on a plant-based diet. At that time, her knees were stiff. She was walking with a stick. She couldn't go to work. After 30 days, she put the stick down and she could not walk to work. When she went back to the doctor is like, wow, the medication is working. She said, I just laughed because I stopped using the medication for pain. No more pain. Rheumatoid arthritis can be 100% reversed. 100%.
And a 3. So would you recommend then that any specific juice? Because we
Right.
talked about apple and celery.
Right. So now what you do, for example, you want juices that come from a lot more from vegetables and fruit. The reason I said apple is because it's palatable and it doesn't irritate the digestive system first up. And we're talking about green apples and you're getting at least 10 to 12 ounces per time. Then you can have carrot, you can have a green juice like kale or pak choi, you have celery, you can have, just think of your vegetable group. Vegetable group more. And
more veggies. Okay.
But one at a time, don't mix. So if for breakfast you have apple, the next time you have carrots, the next time you have kale, and so on. Okay. And in that you drink your water. You're going to be giving the system a fast. You're going to be giving the system a rest. You remove all stimulation for those 3 days. No cell phone, no computer, no church work, nobody bugging you for anything. And you are going to be amazed. You are going to see more clearly, hear more clearly, and you are going to be much better at the end of that. And then when you start back to eat now, you go for your foods that God prescribed in Genesis. And that will go away. And if you want to test it, start back to eat wheat and your symptoms are going to come back.
Oh, so I didn't know that. Yeah, it's the wheat, the culprit there, huh? Wheat, dairy.
Yeah. Wheat and dairy are the biggest culprits. And that's why in Counsels on Health, page 101, E.G. White talks about when Satan gathered his team together, he came up with the plan that he's going to modify wheat and make it poisonous.
Wow.
Yeah. So in 1957, they would have hybridized wheat to meet the food crisis. So it doesn't matter whether it's whole wheat or white flour. It doesn't matter. It's the same wheat. White flour is just when they process the wheat and take off the germ and all those parts. But the essence of the genetics of the wheat is what is hazardous to us, especially of African descent. The carbohydrate is amylopectin A, which we don't digest. We don't digest it. We don't digest it.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that rheumatoid arthritis is the body's pulling nutrients from the bones.
Yeah.
To stay alive as long as possible. That's a serious thing. You need to get it solved. All right. Okay. All right. I think we have, let me see. Well, 15 more questions here. Questions. Let me see.
I see somebody saying, what is the best flour to use? Well, you have what we call ancient grains like incorn and emmer and spelt, and those are much better. Incorn, E-I-N-K-O-R-N, emmer, E-M-M-E-R, and you have things like spelt, S-P-E-L-T. Those are some ancient grains. You can use like quinoa and amaranth and kamut. Those are also ancient grains that you can look at. Most times your health food stores are supposed to have those. Most of them would. If you're in the Caribbean, amaranth actually is, well, in Jamaica, you call it callaloo. Here we call it baji. Yeah. Yeah. So now if you have rheumatoid arthritis, you have to leave off the yam. Those are high carbs. The yam and the potatoes. You see, the thing is, the carbs are the ones that are generating the problem in in rheumatoid arthritis. Osteoarthritis is more changes in your insulin dysregulation related to your hormones.
All right. There's a person that I've had uveitis over 13 years and been on steroids eye drop, which is breaking down my body and brain. Other than detoxifying, are there any of these herbs that you would recommend so I can get off steroids and get back to my body working again?
Say that again. What did they have?
Uveitis, is that how you say it? Uveitis?
All right.
I'm not sure what that is.
That is actually inflammation of the eyes. All right. It actually affects what we call the uvea. And it can get worse, causes redness. Now, what you can do for that, there are a couple of things that can be done for that. Now, you want to stimulate the circulation in the eye. Some parts of the eye does not have a blood supply. It is supplied by the lymph. There are direct connections between the colon and the eyes. And for a lot of people, when the colon is congested, the eye becomes more prone to having these inflammatory conditions. So if you wash the eyes daily with chancapedra, aka seed under, or you use, there is another herb called shine bush. Shine bush is called in my country. It has some nice shine leaves. It has a kind of succulent looking stem. It grows a lot where you have like your water tanks in the Caribbean, where your water tanks are growing, where there is moisture around the house, it grows there. It's a very nutritious plant. You get the juice of that plant, you put it in the eyes. Or you can do eyes bright. Those are very helpful for reducing the inflammation. But the main thing is to get the colon, the digestive system, in better condition, because now when the eyes cannot get the nutrients it needs, it becomes inflamed. So that person needs a lot of antioxidants to be able to remedy that situation. Lots of beta carotene and those things.
Doc, with something similar, since the eye and colon are connected, if there is a client with glaucoma, would that be the same issue that the person is having digestive and colon issues?
Right, it's the same cause. So this condition, glaucoma, cataract, the cause is the same, but they are expressing differently. So whenever a person has glaucoma—
Hold on 1 second for me, Doc. I want to do this thing. I want to do this as an evangelistic witness, right? So give me 1 second. Answer the next question, because my dad is suffering from glaucoma. So I want him to hear for himself, because him and I, well, a prophet is without honor in his own country. So I want him to hear it for himself so that he can understand, because I've been working with him with a little bit of eye bright and trying to figure out what's going on by asking him questions. But I want him to hear this part for himself. So give me a second. Let me go call him while you take the next question. All right.
All right. So what's the next?
Right, let me tell you what the next question is. Where do I? Please remind me of what the mustard seed in warm water is for.
All right. That's for headaches.
Headaches. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess you'll check the chat. Let me see if I can get this guy here real quick.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So let me see if I can see the questions in the chat. I'm seeing. All right. So someone said dry, scaly feet, getting discolored in some places, stiff skin in some places. All right. So now what is happening? Number one, we have to determine if there is a circulation situation here. What is happening? As people get older, especially, the blood vessels in the extremities become damaged. And so the vital circulation that brings nutrients and oxygen to those areas are affected. The skin is going to become dry, when it doesn't have enough nutrients and oxygen. And of course, you can have discoloration as you have destruction of blood vessels in the area. How do we do that? One of the things that is important is to ensure you get enough trace minerals. The trace minerals help the blood vessels to rebuild the constitution of the blood vessels so that you can have the nutrient and oxygen delivery and removal of waste. Anytime there is any stagnation, there's going to be death, any slowing down. The uptake of nutrients and oxygen and also waste removal occurs at the cell level up to 80 times per second. Anything that affects that is going to create an issue. So now, nutritionally, many people are eating well, but the body is not absorbing it because they are taking in things or they have thoughts that is preventing the body from doing that. So one of the things that I found very helpful is something called fulvic acid, which is a trace mineral blend. There are other trace mineral blends that you can use. Again, there are three things that is like your go-to: a fast, rest in bed, and cessation of everything that innovates. Number one, a fast, rest in bed, and removal of all innovating habits are very helpful in relieving these conditions. So you're on your feet a lot, you're always doing, everybody depends on you and you feel happy serving. But Jesus said, come here apart and rest a while. Stop and think, what am I doing to contribute to the problem? All right? So that's important. The quickest and easiest method of, let me see if I could get back that question or if it's a comment. The quickest and easiest method of attending wounds is the use of salt. Correct me if I'm wrong. Can salt be used to stop bleeding and enhance healing? No, I'm not sure how that will work. The quickest is not salt. There are quicker ways. Cayenne is quicker than salt, by the way. Silver also is quicker than salt. So it's not just to say put salt. Salt is antiseptic, yes, but it's not, it doesn't stimulate the coagulation as fast as a cayenne pepper, and it doesn't pull the wound together. All right, the use of childhood, and I use for my children when injured, was not a way. Yeah, cayenne pepper is actually better, much better. It will sting you a little more, but it's short-lived. Yeah. Can cataract be treated with herbal medicine? Yes, it can. Yes, that is done all the time. Yeah, yes, it's done all the time.
All right.
Yeah. Are you on?
Yeah. Back to this, the colon and the eye connection. Now, you were saying that if a person is suffering with glaucoma, what could be the cause of that?
Right. So now there is a blood supply directly from the colon to the eyes that becomes congested as we consume a lot of refined foods and processed carbohydrates. It develops plaque, and now the blood supply to the eyes are affected. So once we're dealing with any kind of glaucoma, because the blood supply is affected, then the eye cell starts to die. That's what the glaucoma is. Cataract now is like a film that goes over the lens of the eye due to overexposure, due to lack of antioxidants. Antioxidants, the most amount of antioxidants are needed by the liver and the eyes. Those are the two organs. So when we don't consume or absorb our antioxidants, the eyes and the liver are affected the most. So any intervention to reverse glaucoma and or cataract and any like illness, the first thing we do is to cleanse out the colon. Very important. Remove the debris that is there so that you free up the blood and nerve supply, because they go actually directly to the eyes. And then we add a few things. You want to stimulate tear production. So you do 1 drop of honey, of lemon juice in the morning, 1 drop of honey in the night. But the diet is important. Anytime you're using a lot of refined carbs and your breads and your stuff, the cataract and stuff and the glaucoma does not go away. There are some other nutrients as well. So if you need a little protocol pasta, I can send that off to you. Just message me.
All right, I'll call you later then on that.
But
all right,
this is where the intervention is. for any system to operate, it needs the nutrients. If it's not getting the nutrients, it starts to die. Yeah.
True. All right. Appreciate it, Doc.
Right. Chronic constipation. All right. So now on a physical level, get more fiber in. Insoluble and soluble fiber, more fruit and vegetables, take out the refined foods. And the constipation goes. If you want a bowel movement real quick, I can share something with you. Please don't, I'm not advertising. There's something called Swiss Squish. You can look it up. You take 4 of those with 4 figs, and your constipation is going to be gone in a couple hours.
What is it? Swish?
Swiss Squish, SWISSCRISS.
All right.
Yeah, excellent.
Send this to this person. Right.
Very, very, very helpful. There are other things that will take too long if you have chronic constipation, because chronic, it means that you've had this thing for some time. I remember there was a guy who I was in church one Sabbath, and his niece came. He said, "Brother Bob, I have a problem. My uncle has not gone to the toilet for a month. 1 month." I'm like, wow, what's wrong? He went to the doctor, nothing they gave him worked. I said, take me home, because where I was parked, I couldn't drive out. I said, take me home now. Go into my home, and I got some Swiss Squish, and I gave him about 20 so that you'll have for a couple of days. I said, take 4 one time. He took the 4 one time. I said, what's going on? Because if he's constipated for a month, I said, this is not physical. I said, what is happening? He said, boy, I'm having trouble with my wife. I can't talk to her. She doesn't feed me well. So he had a lot of crap in him, what he thought. I said, you need to talk. So he got his brother, and he started to talk and share. And then now, as he exhaled in his thoughts, the body worked better along with the Swiss Squish. And now he started having bowel movements. Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, okay, I see we have some hands. I think Bridget, you wanna, I don't know if she's unmuted or muted. Bridget?
Okay. While Bridget is coming, it's cayenne pepper and olive oil, 1 tablespoon each at the sole, on the sole of the feet for circulation. Maybe if you could take the next person.
Yeah, 4K, Anna K. Morris. These hands are raised, but I don't have the, I don't know if they're muted.
Okay. Someone unmuted me.
Yeah.
Okay. I asked about the cayenne pepper already. So the next question I want to ask is about tea.
Which one?
Can you have tea in any form, hot, cold, or lukewarm?
All right. Now, most times a tea works better at the higher temperature. Not boiling hot to burn you, by the way. Never use things that are hot. All right. Cold teas do not stimulate, because you usually use a tea to stimulate movement where there is stagnation. Yeah. So if you're using a tea, you want to use it on the warmer side. Not hot to burn you, but you don't want to use it cold. It would not be effective.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Where can I find black walnut? Well, if you have a good herb shop, or you may have to go online and purchase that. Bad circulation, especially women, stop wearing tight clothes, tight underwear, tight bras, tight clothes, tight jeans. That's one of the first things. And then you can use that olive oil and cayenne pepper. Also, watch your carb intake. Those are the things that are really pushing the problem. High carb, high insulin, damage to blood vessels in the extremities as the result.
Well, we know that. Oh.
No, the back pain is different. Back pain is different. You have different things that may happen, and based on where the pain is. So again, for that person, I would want to maybe talk with them and get some other information in terms of what is happening. Upper back, middle back, sometimes you have some organ issues going on inside there. Yes, 1 drop of lemon juice in the eye in the morning and 1 drop of honey. It hasn't killed anybody. I do it all the time. Yeah, it really soothes the eyes. Yeah.
My mic is unmuted. Can I speak?
Sure, go ahead.
Bless the Lord. I got a remedy out of a dream one day when I didn't start the herbal thing yet, as yet. So it was aloes and frankincense and aloe. You can tell what that is good. And I say it's and I got in the dream that it is good for fat loss.
So
So then,
I'm not sure. I know frankincense is a powerful anti-inflammatory. We use it especially in high inflammatory situations like cancer. So for example, if a person has a tumor in the brain, we use frankincense at the roof of the mouth periodically. Aloe is a general herb that helps to remove inflammation. In terms of fat loss, I am not sure how that would apply. One of the easiest ways I've found for people to lose fat, again, come off the carbs. One of the first people I worked with was a lady who was overweight and scheduled for knee surgery. What did we do? Say, okay, what are you having for breakfast? Okay, we took those out and we added what we call green smoothie. And we added some nuts and some seeds. For lunch, we did the peas and the vegetables and so on. And for dinner, you can write this down, a special juice, 2 cucumbers, 1 finger of ginger, 4 fat stalks of celery, and based on the size of the pineapple, half a pineapple. You juice that for dinner, so you're not eating for dinner. After the first week, she said, I lost 12 pounds. Remember, she couldn't exercise. So all she could do was to do the diet. In 1 month, she lost 30 pounds. And she did not have to do the knee surgery again. So if you take out carbs, as in terms of the refined carbs, because your vegetables already have carbs, and you do that for a period of time, especially for women, you're going to balance your hormones, because the reason for especially the fat under the arm and the belly fat is the insulin is too high. So estrogen and insulin is working together to convert the carbs into fat, and it stores it around the belly. You call that central obesity. When you follow this system, that goes away.
okay, so I don't have to use it.
Oh, go ahead, my dear.
So I don't have to use the frankincense and the.
Because I'm not sure how what I'm saying, God speaks to people in many ways. So because I'm not sure how that works, then I wouldn't be able to advise on that.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Simpler ways to lose weight, because you have to purchase frankincense that you may not get it. Frankincense may be expensive. Yeah, but
Well,
using food, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we just wanted everyone to know that, everything is based on a case-by-case assessment. It's just general information. So what Doc has shared about clients that he's worked with may not apply to this particular instance. So it's just the edification of the brethren, so that you can know, so that you can evaluate your own self and then pray and ask God and get your consultation to determine what works for you or what works in this particular instance, because obviously no two situations are alike.
Amen.
Right? Everyone's nutritional value or nutritional uptake or the condition of the system is totally different. And so that greatly impacts how treatment is applied and how one deal with this. I see we have quite a few more hands. I will have to jump. I will have to jump shortly because I'm preparing for a 6 o'clock with a 3 angels message. So,
right.
I will have to jump out.
Every single hand, but what I would say is that let us always go back to what we call the basics, the laws of health. people use what we call tradition and culture and so on to take care of themselves. Especially, I know for women, you work too hard, you don't rest, you carry a lot of burdens, and then you just eat what is convenient. Remember, what you put in your body, these are the building blocks. And so whenever I do programs, I tell folks, it is not my aim to relieve symptoms. That can be done. My aim is to help people to understand that you don't have to have the symptoms in the first place. I can recommend the herb to get your blood sugar down or to get your blood pressure down. That is not my aim. Go back to the things that we are doing wrong. Remember, Ministry of Healing 127, disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. If that is true, the symptoms that you're experiencing are not the enemy, the symptoms are your friend. The symptoms are the body trying to talk to say, please help me. I'm trying to expel all these toxins that you're putting in. Please stop putting them in. That's what the body's trying to say. Now, if we think, I want to get my blood pressure down, I want to get my blood sugar down, I want to drop the weight, what we're actually doing is the same thing that the pharmaceuticals are doing, treating the symptoms. The problem would not go away. So that's why now when a person uses garlic for blood pressure, it doesn't go away because they are still doing the things to dysregulate the insulin at the cell level. The change must come through obedience to the laws of health. And that's where you get meaningful results. That's why I said, you have a glaucoma issue, fix the bowel. It's not to use eye drops. Eye drops may relieve the symptoms. It's like covering up your dashboard with all the lights that are supposed to be indicators that things are going right or wrong. What we want to do is to help to bring the body back into homeostasis, into balance, so we don't get those symptoms at all. But if we get them, we know what to do. All right?
All right, Doc, I'll take 2 more and then I'll run.
No. Oh, I was just going to say, excellent point to end on, since we are
okay.
over the time.
Yes. All right, let's end right there then.
Everyone is going to.
Yes, yeah.
Don't feel bad that your questions weren't answered. No, we have lots of time during the training to get your question answers. Just write down your question, put them in the dashboard on the platform, and we will send them to the presenter. So you will get them answered, just not at this present moment. So thank you again, Brother Bob.
Amen.
Any
Thank
presentation you miss, remember that they are on the platform. So don't get upset, don't get fussy about what presentation you didn't miss. They will be on the platform and you'll be able to go back and rewatch them and just write down your question, put them in the dashboard, and then we can address them in a timely manner. All right, so
hi, Brother Bob. Listen, I am out in the country, Brother Bob, and I found a lot of Spanish needles. Lots.
Right, you'll find them there, yeah. You'll find them. You'll find them there a lot.
Yeah, so we harvest a whole lot this morning.
Yeah. Yes, I harvest mine, so now I harvest my plants and I dry them, I sun dry them, or I have it. One of the things you can invest in is a dehydrator.
yeah, man.
Yes.
And you dry them, and then I put them in the Vitamix and make them into powder and put them in glass jars and store them in dark cupboard.
Which of the dehydrator? The one that you use that for dehydrating like fruits, something like that?
Same one.
The same
Yes.
one. And use those for the plants.
Yes.
Okay, I'm thinking of I'm going to ask a carpenter tomorrow to make I was thinking of use a mesh, and he will let it put a board around it and put it on stand so that I can dry my herbs in the sun.
Yes, I do that to plants, and then I have them so in case of emergency, because like there are some plants come next month, you're not going to find them again until the rain comes down.
Yes.
So I would have a supply, and if somebody needs some, I could always say, here is some or so.
Okay. Beautiful. So thank you. I always love botanical medicine presentation. So there's so much and so many questions that come with it. So everyone, if you don't get your question answered, remember this is training. So we always, sometimes we do presentation, the questions that are asked doesn't even have anything to do with the topic, but we still try to answer them. So there will be time. All right, but the information that you're given now, make sure that you go. Remember the 8 laws of health. I heard Brother Bob just mention it. Always go back, please. It is only when you go to your medical fraternity that you'll ask for a quick fix.
Yes.
In our situation, it's not like that. They said nature's method, what is it? Nature method of healing is gradual.
Yes.
And to the impatient, it seems slow.
Oh,
All right. All right, so that's a quote from Ministry of Healing. So go slowly with your body and allow it to start rebuilding itself so that healing can take place.
Amen.
All right.
sounds
God
good.
bless you.
Okay.
All right. So I didn't get to say happy birthday to Nana. I hope she knows that I love her. Happy birthday, Nana. God bless you. And we're looking forward to even greater things that God has in store for you, my dearest. All right. So Pastor Punch, you can pray and close us out, please. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, let us pray. Gracious, loving Father, what an awesome God you are. You have given us such simple remedies, God, to preserve, to prevent, to protect, and ultimately so that we can be healed, we can be in the best health possible to bring glory and honor to your name and to be of service to humanity. Lord, where we have come short in this regard for violating the laws of health, may you forgive us. May you cleanse us and give us a new start today, so that this week, whatever may hinder health, we may become aware and by your grace and strength, put it away. Teach us, O God, how to walk uprightly. Thank you for your son, your servant, and all the others who have blessed us today so graciously. May you bless and enlarge their territory and every one of my brothers and sisters on this line today. May we all be equipped with the right knowledge to serve you rightly. Bless us and keep us. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. All right, everyone, Brother Bob, Doc, Nurse, and all my brothers and sisters near and far around the world, we will talk later. Doc, I sent you the information. If you can just drop it in the chat wherever possible, because we are studying the three angels message as well, and it is beneficial to everyone.
Yes.
All right. God bless
Yes,
you.
sir.
All right, Doc. Bye.
Bye-bye, Pastor Punch.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to show you guys what we want for the sanitarium, but this video is not opening at all.
Play it.
Oh, yes, there you go.
Doc, we want to see. It's exciting.
It's just our vision.
Uh-oh.
Um,
There it is.
Wrong page. Yeah, what's it gone? There's a better video somewhere. Well, you have the general idea.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll be sure to let you see the correct one. This one is not the right one at all. But you get the general idea. I will
And what,
definitely.
how far along are we? What percentage?
Pardon me?
How far along are we?
We have 3 rooms.
Working on the kitchen.
I'm working on the kitchen and an outside bathroom. And there's going to be an
where the gym is.
Right. We're going to start with the gym next week, I believe.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So we're doing them in stages.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're hoping to get you some current pictures, probably by the end of the month, thereabouts, early March. So we'll
Okay.
have a new video with, what it's really like now, early March.
All right. Awesome. All right.
All right, guys. See you all.
All right. Yeah.
Bye. See you tomorrow at 5 p.m.